Hey guys, thanks for joining. We'll just give it a second to let a couple more people join. Let's see that the room is filling up, and then I'll kick off. Hope everyone's having a good day so far. Usually have a little countdown timer for our MSPs and conversation, but totally forgot to add it to this one. So we're going to have to imagine there's elevator music. All right. Cool. All right, we're one past, so we'll kick off. Guys, thank you for joining us today. Today is a very informal partner portal training session. We just want to sort of run through, hopefully some of you are tech, some of you are provisioning, some of you are finance. Ask as many questions as you want. I've got a bit of a structured program, but feel free to ask any questions that you have in the chat, and we can kind of cover off. This session will be recorded. So if you do want to refer back to it later, you can, or you can share it around to different team members or whatnot. But we do also offer one-to-one or one-to-many training. So, some partners, they include us in their onboarding for new staff. If they need to use our partner portal for diagnostics, you can, book them in with us, and we can do some training with them one-on-one or one-to-many. So happy to do that in person or virtually, wherever we can. But a little bit about Hosted Network. I assume most of you know this already, but Hosted Network is a licensed Australian wholesale cloud and telco provider solely working with MSPs. So we started as an MSP back in 2003, and we transitioned to 100% channel in 2013. So we work hand in hand with just MSPs. We don't have any other sort of target market there, and we don't have any end customers, so we never compete with you, right? So our promise to you guys is to deliver cloud and telco services the way it should be for MSPs. Simple, easy, with no margin burn. Our partner portal has been built entirely based off feedback, right? So it's fully built custom in-house. Our second largest team internally is our DevOps team, and we spend a lot of time building features based off partner feedback. We're very flexible. As an example, if one of you are on the call or in the finance team and you want to see something specific on our invoice, or if you'd like to, or the CSV that we provide you at the end of each billing cycle to help with your reconciliation, give us that feedback, right? Where we want to make your lives easier. Everything that in our partner portal has been built based off partner feedback, right? So if you need things tweaked or whatnot for you guys, let us know. We want to hear from you. All right, let me just stop sharing for a second and pull up the partner portal. Again, if you've got any questions, please feel free to ask as we go. I've got Jesse and Matt. Matt, are you around? I can see you as a panelist. They'll help answer any questions as we go.
I am here.
Welcome, sir. All right, Zoom. It's my first webinar of the year, and I've forgotten how to use Zoom. All right, so assuming most of you have seen our partner portal, this is the dashboard, and there's a couple of things on here that are really important that if you're not aware of them, I want to sort of go over and share these with your team. The first of all, our dashboard has a bunch of different things that you might need straight away, like your latest orders, any service qualifications that you've done, any draft orders that you're working on, those sort of bits and pieces, right? So they're really handy to kind of bounce back to where you were or what you've got in progress, right? Without having to go into the menu and sort of find the specific things from there. But the main thing I really want to highlight to everyone here is our hosted network escalation matrix, right? I really encourage everyone to download that and actually save a copy of it, share it around with your team. All of our escalations, mobile numbers and emails are in there, right? So if you ever need to get something done or break a bit of process, you're welcome to leverage that, including my mobile number. All of our managers are in there as well. So that way you can kind of get things done when you need it, even if it is at 2 a.m. in the morning, because, for whatever reason, okay? Just make sure I've got the chat up. Cool. All right. So Working from left to right, from the top section here, you can see your account manager. If you're ever needing, your account manager is a one-to-one relationship there, but you are supported by the wider sales team. So if you ever need, general escalations, or you need pricing and anything that you can't get from the portal, you'd need a custom solution designed, your account manager and the wider sales team is your first point of call. But moving further to the right, we also have any upcoming maintenance, right? So if you've want to see if a service is being impacted, you can see that from the top. It's a bit of a summary. You can also see that from the individual service page, which I'll go through as well. Any outages, right? So if your services are impacted by any outages, these outages might be NBN, there might be a fiber cut, and those sort of things. If you're in marketing or in the sales teams, you'll find a lot of our latest resources in here as well, right? So in our marketing concierge, which I'll touch on as well today, these are the latest ones and the most popular resources. So make sure you check those out. You can kind of see that if you're doing local number porting, one of the most popular ones that we have is our, and I'll zoom in a little bit, is our inbound number system. Now, a lot of those resources can be white labeled, right? So we can stick your branding on them and things like that. So make sure you check that out, but I will do a bit further of a deep dive. So that's at a high level, the dashboard, right? The main thing I just want to sort of call out is that escalation matrix. I really do encourage you to save those contacts into your mobile phones. If when you need them, you may not expect it, but you might need them one day. Happy to sort of support you guys there. Also, service status. We also have an off-net status page, just in case there is a major disaster. So I suggest that you go and subscribe to that as well. So that's the main thing. Now, on the call today, we've got a range of different team members, right? So we've got people that are in finance, admin, support, etc. And I want to sort of, first of all, if you're the person responsible for adding users into the partner portal, the first section that you need to go to is under settings, contacts, okay? Contacts is where we can add contacts and control permissions, right? So when we add a contact, fill in all their standard details. If you want to enable this account to get access, you can basically tick it in there. If you just want it to be a contact for orders and things like that, to get those, you can sort of tick that. Now, account permissions is where the partner portal is designed so that you can restrict certain permissions. For example, you might be a technician, but you don't need to see invoices, or you don't want your support team being able to raise services or order new services, but you want them to be able to do diagnostics, right? So you've got a bit of granular control there. So make sure that you consider that when you're setting users up. If you trust everyone, tick all the boxes, but you do have a bit of control there. So I won't go through and create an account for this purpose, but the other one is email preferences. So not everyone in your team is going to need to receive invoices. Maybe your finance team don't want to receive instant notifications. If you've got WAN services that might be eligible for fiber upgrades, certain people are going to want to receive those, certain people aren't. So you can just tick those, and that sort of that limits the emails that you're going to get from the partner portal, right? That are automated, right? I'll use the WAN alert one. If you've enabled WAN alerting on a particular internet service and it goes down, right, you'll get an email notifying, hey, this service has gone down. And then when it's been restored, it'll be, hey, this service has gone up, is back up. It's been down for 2 hours or 2 minutes. A good little example of that is creating a generic email, a generic contact in the system that might go straight to your ticketing system, right? But you don't want your ticketing system to receive the FTP upgrades or the invoices and so on and so forth. So feel free to sort of tailor that to each individual user. Cool. Okay, so that's kind of the high level of managing users. Again, all of these sort of permissions have been created based off feedback from partners. So, a partner might come to us and say, hey, I just want to limit this particular section. If you've got a bespoke requirement within your organization, maybe it's for ISO, 27001 or 9001 or whatever it might be, and you want to sort of tailor that to lock that down further, feel free to let us know. We're happy to add additional permissions and adjust that accordingly. Okay, so the next thing I'll go through is, so in sequence of events, ordering a service, and what that actually looks like, the troubleshooting process as a technician, and the supporting bits and pieces around there around security monitoring, and finally the rebilling and the marketing areas. So we'll start with the actual services. We'll assume that we'll start with actually creating a service. So most people start with the WAN service qualification. So if you're in sales or if you're in a provisioning team, this is probably where you're going to start and where you're going to spend a lot of your time. Right? You do see a couple of other options in the menu, and I won't be going through everything today. But again, if you've got any questions that you want me to deep dive into, just drop it into the chat. Cool. Okay, so the WAN service qualification page is allows you to enter an address or quickly select an address that you've previously typed in. Right. So this is a demo account. So good old John Smith has done a lot of these service qualifications. So I'll use one in Lenders. All right, it'll auto if I've typed it right. It's not going to come up specifically. So in this case, you can choose the auto dropdown, or you can actually, if you can't find it, you can just click into here and type the specific. This can be really handy if you're in an office building, and there's lots of units and things like that. So select that from the list, however you want to go about it. In this case, I'm just going to click the history. When service qualification is going to go away via an API. All right, so we're going to connect into the different databases that we have access to, and we're going to see what services are available to you. Okay, so this might take a moment because we're waiting for that information to come back. We need that elevator music again. Won't take too long. He says, hopefully. There we go. So WAN service qualification is what a lot of partners are using our partner portal for. A great example, if you're an account manager or you're in a sales team and you're going out to a client meeting, you might want to do a service qualification on their site before you go out there, for example. It might be a new client, you want to sort of see what they can get. This is a great way to do before you go to that meeting. You might be on site with them and you want to sort of see what they can get, those sort of things. Anyway, so from the top down, Secure Network is our flagship sort of all-inclusive product, right? So it comes in either TC4 or NBN Enterprise Ethernet, so both NBN connections, but it includes the routers, includes monitoring, includes the firewalling, 24/7 monitoring, unlimited change management. So that's, if you're a salesperson and you need something that is very turnkey, you just want to add margin to, that's a great product to run with. If, however, you've got your own hardware that you want to sort of control internally and those sort of things, then you're probably just going to want to order a standard internet connection. I should say with our secure network, they are co-managed, right? So you can get access to those routers. Your techs can make changes as well, and they're backed by us 24/7. But moving along, from here, we see 3 different types of connectivity, right? So we're going to see best effort, which is, if you think of the internet connectivity that you're going to get from home, this is what you're going to see here. So residential or business, the difference between the two is that we add an SLA from NBN for the business one. Right now, the benefit there is that whenever you submit a support ticket to us, if we need to go to NBN, it's going to a business team. Right, and it's got better response times. If you don't choose this one and you choose the residential one, you submit a support ticket on Friday afternoon, you're going to be waiting until Monday morning until we get a response back from NBN, right? I always like to say that you're waiting behind the mums and dads or kids with Netflix issues if you choose the residential. But you can see here that the price point isn't a huge difference for say 100 by 40, right? We're only talking, what, $9 difference. So. That's TC4 I won't go into too much technical bits and pieces, but you will see the order summary updating on the site as you add extra products and things like that. Now, from a symmetrical, these are our fiber products, and you'll see here that NBN, Telstra, and APT are all available at this particular location. If something is not, you'll actually see a red cross and you won't be able to select it. Now, one big bit of feedback that we often get from partners is that a lot of other providers won't give you instant pricing. We will actually go out and calculate that pricing of any bill costs on the fly. There are some caveats to that. If you're completely regional and whatnot, there might be some bill costs here and there. but this will actually give you a good indication. So that again is going out via API, and it takes a couple of minutes to come, a couple of seconds to come back. So there we go. So you can see NBN Enterprise Ethernet on a 36-month term doesn't have a build cost there. And so if I was choosing APT, you can choose that. Good to have a discussion with your client if you're going out there. From a priority perspective, this is where we're talking a little bit technical. The priority of the data across that the network that you're choosing. So if you're choosing NBN, it's the priority of data across the NBN network. If you're choosing Telstra, it's the priority of those. If that local area is saturated, everyone's smashing their internet connections, the high priority services are going to get priority across the network. In most cases, 95% of cases, standard symmetrical is fine though. What I'll do is I'll use this, and I'm not going to place a full order here. Know that you can go through and you can choose a whole bunch of add-ons, right? So if you need it, if you need us to manage it, if you need a router, etc., you can choose all of a whole bunch of different options. If you need additional IP addresses and so on and so forth. I won't go through all of those. Just know that as you select it, I'll just choose this, that it'll update automatically on the right-hand side. So the main piece that I want to sort of cover off with ordering internet connectivity is that, and those of you that are in billing or responsible for reconciliation of the services that we charge you for, the end customer is a really important field, right? We group any of the services that you order from us by the end customer on the invoice and on our CSV, and it's identified in our system. Now, you can add them on the fly, right? So you can actually go in here and just create them, and you can always go back, right? So if you don't choose one initially, you choose the wrong one, you can go back and update that later, and then it will reflect in your next billing period on your invoice and whatnot. It'll reflect in the portal instantly, but your next invoice, etc., will be updated. All right, so always good to choose that. The partner reference, if you've got a ticket, if you're using Autotask or ConnectWise or something like that, and you want to track that, the history of that, if you've got a project ID, etc., PO, purchase order, pop it in there. The primary site contact details, these are, again, this is for an internet connection, right? So if we're talking SIP trunks or cloud services, they're a little bit different, but we need to provide details to contractors when they're installing internet connections, right? The people that are physically going to go out on site, and that contractor will need to talk to your end customer, right? So this is who they're going to liaise with. In some customers, you can put yourself, and sorry, in some cases, it is always better to put someone that has access to the premise, right? So that they can open comms rooms and unlock the building or whatever the case might be. In terms of your contact details, these are the ones that you select here. So if you're technical, you choose whoever. John might be the technical, Jane might be the billing contact, and you might choose any additional that you need from there. They have to be contacts within the system, right? So if you're a new partner, or you're adding additional stuff, it is important that you set those users up before you go and place orders. We can add them to orders after the fact, but it just means that you can select them as internal contacts, and so you get all the right technical information when you're ordering. We're not going to go to the billing contact for technical information and vice versa. All right. Again, this is an internet connection, so to ensure a smooth service delivery, it's important that you provide us as much detail about that site. So if you're in sales, or if you're in service delivery or provisioning or something like that, getting these details right from the word go is really important. The reason being is it might be a heritage listed building. If we don't know that, there's certain certifications that our contractors need to actually do works on the site. If there is a bank in the building, right, you need certain security clearance, so as the contractors do. So it's important that you give us as much information as possible. Now, if we'll discover this along the way. There's no extra costs if we do discover these things, but it might cause delays in the service provisioning. All right. If this is a standard NBN TC4, it's that's probably not going to matter. But if we're having to do a fiber build, like in this case where we have to liaise with councils, we have to potentially dig up the street, those sort of things. So it's important that you give us as much information as you can. Now, I won't actually submit this order, but know that you can also save this as a draft order so you can come back. And if you're working with our sales team on a larger deal, right? Let's say, for example, you've got a 10-site deal. You don't have to go in and do all of these individual connections and service qualifier. You can pass that through to our sales team, and we'll do all the heavy lifting for you, right? And give you a price for the whole solution. And when they do that, in order to place that order, we'll give you a draft order ID, right? So you can just go into your draft orders and see that order that our sales team have put together for you, and then you can accept it and make modifications to it from there. All right. So assuming this order has now gone through, once that goes in, we classify orders in 3 different types: add, modify, and remove, right? So we call that the service lifecycle. I'll have a look at an existing service, and we can kind of actually have a look at the orders. These are all the orders that we've got. So these are the order is think of that as a container. It might contain multiple different services. And I'll just try and find a good little example, maybe the top one here. Well, a fair few people actually, this is a draft order. This is a good one, right? So I mentioned a draft order before. You can see in this one, it hasn't actually been accepted. And so you can actually go in and you can add extra bits and pieces, change quantities and things like that. Right, so I'll just go back and just find an actual completed one. I'll just do an add, and you can see the service types: add, modify, remove. Right, so this is an order. If you've got multiple different services, you're going to see multiple different cases, right? So we have an order, and then we have cases, right? Think of them as a ticket, but that's what we're going to communicate to you on for that particular service, right? So when you go into that, you'll actually see a timeline of that order. Right, so in this case, this is for infrastructure as a service, which is automatically activated, right? But you'll see the process at the top. If this is a fiber build, there's a bunch of extra steps up there, right? We might have to do a site survey and things like that. But you'll see the communication for this particular case all in the order, right? And you'll notice that the order number at the top, right? So you have an OR number, which is for the parent order, and then a PC number for each of the cases. Okay. Just note that, and that's where these the contacts come through, right? So the contacts that you subscribe to the order, when we're sending you these communications, they will go to those contacts. Okay. If you're a new partner and you're placing an order for a first time with us, we will actually walk you through this and make sure all those users are set up. But if you ever get stuck, always feel free to reach out. Okay. So let's say our service has now gone live. We now need to actually view our services, and we want to, maybe modify or cancel that service. All right, so straight away, we can see here, we go to services on the left-hand side. And we can see that we have a bunch of different services. All services have a service ID, right? So if you're in support, and you're contacting us, or if you're in any department really, that service ID is what tells us all of that information that we need to know. We look up that service ID in our system, right? When we're searching. If you give us the end customer, right, it's up to, if you haven't defined that, we may not be able to find it in our system. So the service ID is always really important that you start with that. You can see here that all of these services are active, and I'll just I'll use the infrastructure as a service as a modification example. So infrastructure as a service is our, in this case, I can't modify it, but I can cancel it. Matt, am I crazy? He's silent. All right, I'll just go through cancellation here. Just know that when you modify, I'll actually just check the other one. It might be because it's the demo account. Yeah, I'm going to say it's the demo account. Normally there's a modification button there. It's nothing like a demo when it doesn't quite go to plan, but there's normally a modification button there that allows you to click that, and then you can edit the quantities and things like that. Just know that if you have a contract with us, so let's say, for example, you've contracted for 36 months for 10 gig of RAM as an example, you will have a contract baseline, right? So you'll only be able to go down to that particular, at that minimum. And if you go above that, you will pay the standard price, right? But those additional resources are not contracted, right? So you need to, in order to get your contracted price, you have to recontract that service. Just be aware of that. And that contract baseline comes into effect if you want to ever go back down to that point. If you need to remove those resources entirely, you need to cancel the service or cancel a specific product, right? So you can see in here that everything has a product ID. In some cases, I'll use an internet connection as an example. You might want to keep the internet connection, but you might want to cancel the management component. We allow you to do that without canceling the whole service. In here, you can see that I've gone in to actually cancel this. Storage is a good little example. I can click just, sort of zoom in there a bit. I can select this specific storage to cancel that. And this, I'll use the example of management rather than canceling the entire thing. If I need to cancel the entire thing, I would select the big red button that says cancel entire service. If you have infrastructure with us, you are responsible for deleting any of those virtual machines and whatnot first, right? So if we get a cancellation for services and it's still, there's data in there, we won't remove that data. We require you to remove that. So just be aware of that. In terms of the actual billing, if you're in reconciliation, the cancellation, the date that you submit the cancellation isn't the date that your billing will necessarily stop. Right. So in some cases like connectivity, there's a 30-day for fiber services, there's a 30-day cancellation date and things like that. Typically, they will be prorated to the end of the month. If it's infrastructure, like this one here, they will be prorated to the day, right? And you'll see that there's multiple different prorata options or line items on your invoice and on your CSV. So if you're reconciling those, we put the dates in there and try and make that as clear as possible. If you are using anything like Cloud Olive, which is a great reconciliation tool, all of our invoicing and our CSVs for reconciliation are supported by that to make your life a little bit easier. Now, so that's sort of your service lifecycle. So add, modify, and remove. Now, if we're in technical, and I'm going to shift gears again, go back to connectivity. If we're in technical and we want to diagnose a service, right? We want to look at, I don't know, the customer's called up and hey, their internet connection's playing up. We provide you with a bunch of self-service diagnostic tools. Again, go to the service, right? You click the service ID to go to the service view page. And in here, we can see a few different options. First of all, we can see the cancellation service that we saw before, and you'll notice that that is in a slightly different location for internet connections because there's a few extra details. We can also enable monitoring, right? So in this particular case, you can see that there's no monitoring at the moment here, but if I click that enable monitoring, if you're technical, you need to enable ICMP on that particular router, right, in order for the graphing to work, right? Now, once I've enabled that, okay, so this is, I can't enable this. It's the demo account again. Once it's enabled and you've got ICMP enabled, you will see a new section here for WAN monitoring, okay? And you'll see a graph and our team can see those same details. So quite often, if you're troubleshooting dropouts, for example, that's one of the first things we get you to do because our team and your team can see when that service is dropping in and out. The reason it's not enabled by default is that not every service has a static IP address and not every service has ICMP, and we don't want to spam you with those alerts, right? So you can enable it and then you can disable it if you need to as well. From here, I'm going to scroll down a little bit. You can see any related orders, right? So any adds, modify, and removes. In this case, it's a demo account, so there is no add because we've added it manually. But you'll also see any logged faults if you've gone up here and logged an actual fault. This might not be the best service. Matt, can you link me one that is a better example, please? And any incidents, right? So if we're doing maintenance on a particular area, or if there's an NBN incident in the area, or NBN are doing maintenance, you're going to see these under incidents, right? So good little timeline there for anything that comes up, and you can click into those to see a little bit more detail and the actual timeline of what's actually happened. Okay. So let's go back to the view page.
You should have monitoring enabled now.
Thanking you. Okay, so there you go. So you can see here, this is the monitoring service, and there's no data here because it's not a real service, but you'll see that the graphs will actually show the latency, and you can change the time intervals. On the right-hand side, you'll also see the any dropout history, right? Our team can see that as well, so it just kind of makes transparency a little bit easier for us all. As I go up though, the service health is where the majority of the diagnostics are going to happen. So if I go into here, you can see straight away, we get a summary. Now, the first time that you load this page, be patient. We have to poll the APIs and whatnot, and we do a profile on that particular connection, right? So we look at all the as much data, we correlate different bits of data, and we categorize it in 3 different areas: stability, performance, connectivity. And then we will give you recommendations here, which in this case there are none. I really need to choose a different service. Which is the one with the live service, Matt?
It's the S22045. The
This one
upgrade
here?
one. Yep.
Cool.
That one.
Okay. This is connected to someone's house internally, so I won't use all of the diagnostic functionality because I'll take them offline. But straight away, you can see here, this is a good little example. There's upcoming maintenance on this particular service. Again, it's a live service, and you can click that the little link at the end there to get the a bit more details. You can also see that this site is eligible for fiber to the premise, right? So it's a free upgrade. When you qualify a site, if that site is eligible as well, we will tell you as part of that ordering process. Little bit of a catch there. We are a bit different with our fiber to the prem upgrades because we deal with MSPs. We actually do order that as a separate service, right? So you have to cancel off the old one. So that way, a lot of the other residential telcos out there will kind of just, as soon as that's live, they kind of cancel off your old one. Obviously, businesses don't want that because they will get taken offline. So just make sure you cancel off that old service. You will get billed for both if you do need to leave them for a period of time. If you need to scrub lists, we've got a bunch of partners as well that are sending us a list of every single one of their customers, and our team can let you know any of those sites that are eligible for a free fiber to the prem upgrade. As any of your services come up, we will notify you. And if they are planned, if NBN gives us a planned date, we will tell you in an email once a week, I think. And you can also go into the section on the menu here, upgradable TC4 services. So yeah, but if you do have a list that you want us to scrub, shoot it through to our sales team and we'll do all of that for you manually and give you, hey, these 20 sites out of 100 can be upgraded for free. Anyway, back to the service health. So there we go. This is a real world service. So I'll zoom out a little bit. We provide a high level overview of the service, right? So straight away, we're profiling it for stability, performance, and connectivity, right? And if there are things that are falling out of the parameters, we'll try and give you an indication of what might be the issue. So in this case, this is a real world service and it has a potential line impairment or a bridge tap. Those of you that are technical, someone split the phone line, right? So they've kind of split it off. If anyone remembers back in the day of dial-up and you could kind of have a phone in every house, that's probably that. So this is a fiber to the curb or fiber to the node service. Now, from here, you're going to see uptime, you're going to see dropout history as well. Now, this is from NBN. So there are 2 types of dropouts. If the connection is dropping out to us or if the connection is dropping out to the internet, there are 2 types. Just be aware of that. But we'll give you a summary of that. The key thing for anyone technical, if you are submitting a fault, we can see the MAC address of the router, right? So if you've told us that you've changed the router, right, because NBN or what are the upstream telco as part of their diagnostics, they will require you to do that. That MAC address won't update if you haven't changed the router. So from a time to resolution perspective, it is important that you do that because NBN will point to that and close the ticket, and then you will be up for a no fault found fee, right? So just be aware of that. Now, diagnostics and tests. There are 2 types of tests. There are informational and there are service impacting, right? So the first one's along here up to here. So all of our statuses are informational. So I'll go and do this because I won't take off whoever's internet connection actually is. Once we do that, it'll take a second and it will actually drop into this list here. Now, if your team are doing this, your name will come up here. If our team are doing it, our team will come up there, right? So it's very transparent of who is doing what, and all of that history is shared from our side and your side, meaning that we're sharing the same information so that that time to resolution is as low as possible. And you can see here in this case, it is passed. You can click on that and get a bunch of extra information. This is really just making sure that the port is up, right? So something is plugged into it, which is great. And from the overview, we can see a MAC address, which means that there is a router plugged into that or a modem, whatever it might be. Now, there are some other ones with reset on the end of it, and I'm I will click this. It will warn you. It will say this is a service impacting a test. It will drop that internet connection. So if you're a tech and they've got occasional dropouts, just be aware of that and communicate that to your customer. Right. And this is, again, for those of you that are managing contacts and permissions, this might be why you want to restrict some of those permissions as well. You might not want your level ones to be able to do this. So I won't go ahead and click that, but just know that as you go through, all of these tests go straight to NBN, and these are available for all NBN services. So whether it be TC4 or Enterprise Ethernet. Now, depending on the technology type, these tests might change, right? So if you've got a fiber to the curb or a HFC, you're going to see different diagnostics to, say, fiber to the prem. Just be aware of that. If it is a fiber to the prem service from a technical, I always like to say this to people that just be careful when you do an NCD reset. You can drop some buildings, some people have like resold connections off the one box. So if you've got like 4 different customers running off an one fiber to the premise box, doing an NCD reset is going to reboot that whole box. You'll take all of them offline. So just do a DPU port reset in order to reset the individual port. If you are from a diagnostics perspective, this is from a sales, but as well as a diagnostics, what a lot of partners do is when they have an issue, right, with an NBN service, you can actually churn it over to us and then use our escalation process, right? So our team can get things done a lot faster than what a lot of the telcos out there can, because in many cases, only their team leaders or level 3s can actually go to NBN, whereas we don't have any level 1 technicians. Everyone in our team is capable of going to NBN directly, right? So it means that we can get that service resolved very quickly. So if it doesn't have an SLA, for example, we can add an SLA. We can get work this system to get things resolved. Okay, now that's high-level self-service functionality. Now, I do want to touch a little bit on security monitoring. And again, if you've got any questions, guys, feel free to drop them in the chat. Now, Project Guardian, we've done a bit of marketing around this, and I've presented this to a heap of you. This is a free tool. All of these tools are free. By the way, we don't charge you for anything in the partner portal. Probably should have started with that earlier. Project Guardian is a tool that we used internally for a long time. We actually, for those of you that are technical, we honeypot a bunch of different servers around the place, and anyone of those servers that start to try, if anyone goes after them, tries to hack them, we actually blacklist those IP addresses on the edge of our network nationally, right? So the intention there is to protect everyone from malicious actors. However, not all of those actors are hitting everyone at once, right? So Project Guardian now, from what you see here, will actually monitor your internet connected services, be it NBN, EE, infrastructure as a service, desktop as a service, whatever it might be. If it's got a publicly accessible static IP address, we will look for open ports and we will look for vulnerabilities. All right, so those of you that run FortiGate, most of you are probably aware that there was, I think it was a 9.6, Matt, or 9.8 CVE.
Yeah, I think it was 9.6.
Okay, so CVE rating is the rating of the severity of a security breach, right? So if there's an issue with some software on a router, like there was with FortiGate, 9.6 is pretty high, right? The higher it is, the worse it is, basically. So if it's an 8 or higher, we will actually call you and let you know that there is a vulnerability, right? To make sure that you've got an extra layer of support. And again, this is free. We'll also provide you guidance on how to fix that. It might be, hey, you need to go patch your router. You might need to, lock down and only whitelist IP addresses that need to access a particular port, those sort of things. Now, if it is a firmware update, I'll use the FortiGate as an example. You've gone and fixed it. You can actually refresh that and we will rescan that service. You can also see, you can see here that, nope, did we clear that?
That
you
one
can
might have cleared.
Yeah, I think it has. I shouldn't have clicked that button first. So if there are multiple vulnerabilities, you can actually click the actual vulnerability button and it will actually show you a history of them. Maybe I'll choose another service in a minute. But we can also see the history of that for compliance reasons. So if you're at 27,001 or anything like that, this is really good from a compliance standpoint because you can see when it started, when it was shown, and when it stopped being seen. Right. So if your customer needs that for compliance, etc., you've got a little bit of history there. The key thing is that we'll call you if it's A or higher. Now, why this is beneficial, some of you in the technical teams, sometimes your customers ask you to go and open a port, right, for whatever reason. Maybe they've got a security camera system that is being monitored by a third party and they need a port open. They go and ask you to do something. You're a managed service provider, so you go and do it, right? But that security camera system has a vulnerability. It doesn't necessarily fall into your realm of responsibility, but it kind of does. But you can't fix that vulnerability because you're not managing the security camera system. So this allows you to at least get an extra overlay of what's happening on your customers' connections. We actually see a bunch of partners now starting to value add that. And again, this is free and charging extra for it. So, those of you that are in sales, I'd suggest that you use that as a differentiator when you're quoting services as well. Now, moving through our way from the technical pieces, I just want to touch quickly. If you're in marketing, I don't know everyone's names on the call, so I can't tell who's who. But if you're in marketing, we have our marketing concierge, marketing sales. We have a heap of different resources that are free in here. Webinars, product brochures, case studies, things like that you can use, right? Marketing kits that have, social media posts, email marketing templates, all that sort of stuff. And you can actually sort of go in here, you can search and you can use the tags or the case studies. So if you wanted to pull up templates, you could go in here and click templates here, and we'll show you all the different templates that are in the system, right? Now, the cool thing about this is that, so like here, for example, data breach checklist, right? You can go in here and you can just click download. Some of these assets we can white label for you free of charge, right? So I'll find a good example. The inbound number system. This is a really good one. Does the demo account not have white label enabled?
It should have downloaded.
Downloaded, but the white label. So we basically. It might not be in that particular one. The demo account's got a few things disabled. What you should see on your account though, is you'll see when you go into it, an option to actually click here to request it being white labeled. So we'll change that, change the branding of that to suit you, get your logo on there, or your contact details, all those sort of bits and pieces. And it's professionally done by our in-house graphic designers. That's free. All right, so any of these resources, feel free to hit us up. And whoop, I went too far back. Feel free to leverage that. Great way to sort of, make your service offerings look a little bit more professional and take off and reduce some of your costs as well. If you're paying another graphic designer and things like that, you can leverage that. I just want to sort of show an example of the particular document that I've I have to come back to that one. I don't work downloaded too. It's always a Matt, you might need to check that.
Yeah, I don't think there's a file for that one.
Anyway, that PDF is a good example. The PDF itself is a end customer friendly guide to. Oh, sorry, it is the wrong one. Sorry, it's not number porting made simple. There you go. The white label request. If you click this, you can actually fill in your details here, and that'll go through to our marketing team, and you queue you in for actual getting that white labeled. But the document itself, if I click the download link, there we go. A bit worried I was going crazy then. Matt, can you see that?
Yep.
Cool. Okay, so this is a white label document that is end customer focused. If you're doing number porting, you can actually go away. We'll actually white label this document for you, and it explains all of the bits and pieces of the process expectations and things like that. We have a bunch of these documents for different service types, feel free to leverage them, feel free to get them rebranded. But the idea is to, set the expectations for you and your customers nice and clearly, and improve that experience across the board. So anyway, that's the Marketing Concierge. We do have a new feature that is coming out shortly, called our product catalog. And when you go to a service, this is partner feedback. When you go to a service, we will, I'll use the EE here. You'll be able to go to, there will be a new button at the top. And I think this is going live this week, maybe next week. You'll see documentation. When you go to that, we will show our price book is being replaced. We'll show you all the pricing, all the marketing resources, all the technical resources for that particular service type. So it's a bit of a project and initiative that we've been working on, because some of the feedback has been, some of our information is, you've got to go over here, you've got to go over there to find that, right? So we're centralizing all of that. So if you're in technical or if you're in marketing, you can just go to one of your services and find all of the bits and pieces, Marketing Concierge, our knowledge base articles, everything nice and simply. So that'll start to be rolled out in the next couple of weeks. So stay tuned for that. Finally, I'm very conscious of time. We've got about 15 minutes. The Rebilling system. Rebilling system is a free product. So it's accessible under end customers. Here we go. Yep. When you go to your end customers, it's automatically sort of set up. The Rebilling system, it allows you to synchronize your billing data of any of our services with your margin into either Xero, right, just the accounting package, into ConnectWise, and into Autotask. We do have a few other integrations coming, and we are also working on some improvements around the Autotask integration based off partner feedback. Now, the key thing here is this it's a good example of partner feedback. We had a partner that basically forgot to sell a $400 or $500 a month service. They forgot to rebill it, or add it to their own invoicing, and they didn't notice for 2 years. Right, so it was kind of beyond that point. They couldn't go back to their customer and backbill that, and so they kind of turned around to us and said, "Boy, it'd be great if we could add something to in there that we could just kind of sync that data into our PSAs, the ConnectWise and the Autotasks of the world." So in this case, this end customer here, you can see here that I've got 3 of 15 services configured, and I can view, and this is why it's also important that you select the end customer that service is associated to, because if you are using the rebilling, it'll pop in there and let you know what you configured and what you don't. And I'm not going to go into too much detail about this today, but if you are interested in more information, check out we've got a dedicated webinar on this. There's a knowledge base article, and we also do one-on-one training. So the rebilling system will allow you to go in and edit your margins that you want to sell it for. You can see here that this TC4 service, it's being bought at $63 and it's being sold at $100, right? If you're doing voice services like this SIP trunk, we can also generate a white label invoice on your behalf with all of your margins. Think of a Telstra-like invoice. We will generate that and have all of the call history and everything on there, right? So that way, if you do want to sort of provide that, you can use the system to do that, all free of charge. Now, if I go into a particular service, you can see here this service isn't configured. I can go into this service. It's going to take me to the service view page, isn't it, Matt? It is.
Yeah, that will. Yeah, if you go back, configure services for rebilling at the right. Yep. Thank you.
Till I don't do this too often. When you go into, you click that button, you're going to see any of the services that aren't configured, and that's where you can actually go in and configure them. I will use the CTS trunk as an example, and there is a separate section for this, which I won't go into. You can actually go in and configure your charging plans, which is all your margins and things like that. You can also rename any of these services on here, right? So if you want them synced into your system, we might call it a CTS trunk, but you want to call it, I don't know, a SIP trunk, well, you can do that, right? We might call it a wholesale service provider account, but you could rename that hosted PBX, right? And then all of that renamed nomenclature will actually be synced across. So in here, and you can see that I mentioned a charging plan a second ago. So in here, I can actually go in here, I can adjust my sell price. There is some global defaults that you can configure as well. So in this case, it's set to 20%, but I can go in there and adjust that however much I want, right? And it will automatically go and update. Mark, we do have plans for Synchro. So I just got a comment in the chat. We do have plans for Synchro and Halo PSA. We actually need some for Synchro. We just need someone that's comfortable to work with us so that we can actually test that. We don't have someone that is prepared to do that at the moment. So if you're interested in doing that, reach out. We can work with that with you on that integration. So from here, again, there's a couple of different options. If you're using the rebilling system to generate the actual white label invoice, you can actually use this to give either a detailed call breakdown. So think, call by call, or you can roll them up and things like that to sort of go, call summary was this, total calls this, total mobile calls this, total national, etc. So you've got a few different options there. I won't configure this because I do need to leave some that are unconfigured. Actually, I don't think it matters for this one. So once I go through, I can hit submit and it goes through, takes me back to the main page, and you can see here that this is now configured, right? You can see that I'm charging this at $50 for the service, and it's actually being billed at $70. Additionally, you can go in here and you can add custom recurring charges. Now, the main thing is we don't actually charge for this at all. There are a lot of systems out there that will actually charge you a percentage of. We don't charge you and we never will, right? This is a value add. Recurring charges, that might be your management fees. Maybe you've gone in there and you want to charge them, $150 to manage that phone system a month, right? You can go in there and add that in there. You can also go in there and add once-off charges, right? So if you want to add, hardware, you can go in here and you can actually add those once-off charges into the rebilling for that particular end customer, and that will all be synced across to your PSA or your accounting package. Depends on how you want to do it. Just know if you are syncing it to a PSA that there are a couple of different ways, particularly with ConnectWise. Everyone uses a PSA slightly differently. So we do try and accommodate those different ways as much as possible. But if you are using it in a slightly different way and our integration is not working for you in the way that you would like, let us know. And that's some of the changes that we've got with Autotask. We've had some feedback that a particular partner is using it in a particular way. We're going to accommodate that to make sure that is as seamless as possible. At the end of the day, we want to make sure that your services that you buy from us, they're not just a service, but we're considering it from the end-to-end life cycle, and that you're making as much margin of that service as possible. And if you're having to spend additional time supporting or reconciling or rebilling those services, we understand that costs you money, and we want to make that as simple as possible. Finally, if you are generating invoices here, it will actually go and you get a full invoice history of when they were sent, etc., the dates, the amounts, all of that. You can configure them if you want to review them beforehand. You can actually set it to not send, which is what the demo account is configured as. So you can go in there and individually kind of send them along. Let's see if I've got anything else on my list. Questions and answers. If anyone's got any other questions, let me know. I'm happy to do a bit more of a deep dive into any of the particular areas. I've got a question. If we need specific sales and marketing material to close a deal for a client, can we help? Yeah, by all means we can. So if you're working on a proposal and it's your first time, we can help you with marketing resources around that. If you need custom product brochures, maybe you're productizing it in a particular way, our marketing team is available to you. So we don't charge for graphic design and things like that. It may not be overnight. It might take a couple of days or a week or so to get back to you and complete that task. But yeah, by all means, we're happy to help you in any way that we can. Got another question here. Do you pro rata charge if a service comes on halfway through? Yes, we do. Right. So if you bring on a service that starts, I don't know, today, the 13th, the billing of that service will start, and the first month, assuming it's I don't know, I'll just use this $60 a month service that you've got up here, this TC4 service, you'll see a pro rata for half of that, or approximately half, the per day rate, and then the advanced charge for next month as well. Okay, so you will see those two line items initially. For rebilling, yes, we do. Pro rata will work with that as well. So if you are doing the same thing, it's back to back. The rebilling system takes a lot of the functionality that we use in our billing to you, just extends that through to you. So pro-ratering, etc., are all available to you. When you choose the effective date, and I'll use this as an example, add recurring charge, effective from date. Okay, so that's what is going to pro-rata it. Right, so in this case, this is a recurring charge, assuming it was a monthly charge, and I wanted to choose it from today. The charge will be prorated from today, so from the 13th to the 29 days this year, leap year, and then it'll be a full charge the next month. And then you can actually tick that on. So you have the option there, Mark, if you want to turn that on or off. So if you want to end the billing of a rebilling service after a period of time, maybe you were getting them to pay off hardware or something like that, and it was for a 12-month period, you can go in here and actually choose the date that you want that billing to end as well, or the month for that to end. Any other questions, guys? Are there any plans to add services outside of hosted network that can be scanned and monitored in Project Guardian? Yeah, we've actually had that requested a couple of times. We are considering it. It's not on the roadmap at the moment, but Project Guardian may well be able to, in the same way we can scan external systems. At the moment, it is just services that are provided by hosted network and have a static IP address. So, that might change over time, but yeah, not just yet. Are there any documentation available on how to use the partner tools? There is. So you can find, every time we send you a service completion advice at the end of an order, you'll see a whole bunch of documentation. We call it an SCA, service completion advice. We'll link you to the knowledge base articles, the getting started guides, those sort of bits and pieces. But you can also go to our KB and find the technical resources and whatnot. So even the partner portal, if you want to find information on how to use the partner portal, you can go in here and it's all documented on how to use that, okay? This is the stuff that we are sort of tying into the product catalog so that we'll make it a little bit easier for you to find this, so you don't have to sort of jump around to a few different services or systems, rather. What level of tech is available to MSPs using the partner portal? Okay, so technical support. So what level of technical support is available? You can actually go in here, and when you log a fault, so when you go to the service, it's the self-service diagnostics for NBN and NBN TC4 and EE. You can either email us directly, so support@hostednetwork.com.au, or call us on 1300 781 148. They're the standard methods of support. And if I have a look at the escalation matrix, that's probably where you want to really sort of get across. This is, there you go. Oh, we've updated that. It's more than the more than the escalation matrix at the moment. I think this is meant to just be one page. And so you'll find all the contact details and sort of what to do for your first port of contact, second and third, or first and second, rather. All right, well, that brings us pretty much to time, guys. Like I said, if you want us to do a deep dive with your team or one-on-one, feel free to reach out to your account manager or our sales team, sales@hostednetwork.com.au. You can email that and our whole sales team get that. So if your account manager's tied up or whatever, or is on leave, that's always a good method. But yeah, we're happy to do that one-on-one training and sort of, handhold them through that process. All right, well, thank you for your time, everyone. Hopefully that I covered everything that you needed. We'll leave it there. Thanks again, guys.